So I've done a little track for this, but it's not actually a track, it's more just for the image. So what I've actually realised now is that, we've got these heroes, like Robin Hood, King Arthur, all these legends and so forth through history, and then, Oliver Cromwell in the Civil War. And the people who went to public schools, the working class, all have their heroes and their perspective of history and all, stories and tales and so forth. And a certain side of history that they usually are on, which is usually, standing against tyranny. But what I've come to realise is that people such as David Cameron and Boris Johnson, these Oxford Prats, Eton people have a very, 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 very different perspective on history and life. The fact that, they're delinquents and they are taught to break the law. Most children are immune from the law until the age of 10 and have immunity anyway. But this is when these people come into their element, when they reach that age, is actually when they break the law more. And they're taught that they're to be judged by their peers, which is actually the statute law for everyone. But they really get this ingrained into them that they're not liable to law because they're privileged and they're immune from law. David Cameron, Boris Johnson, and that they can break the law. In fact, their very class, the class of the rich person, is criminal. It's taking money from people in any which way you can, whether it's bribery, deception, lies, conjuring up new legislation to make everyone else a criminal, or what. It must be the Artful Dodgers class for sure. Not the poor man, but the David Camerons of the world, who are the career criminals because they're privileged, like the Lord Hanningfield, and they can't be prosecuted. Therefore, they're immune and above the law. Now, their view of history is quite different. I've come to realise this because no matter how many civil wars we've had or World War IIs we've had, these are the people like Winston Churchill and the Queen. These people never lose. For them, I've come to realise that they are the masterminds behind sending the public against each other. And they're not just the public in their own countries. They speak and meet with their aristocrats, with their counterparts in other countries, and they have secret meetings and discussions, and then they send countries at each other. They send people to war. They can, if they want to have a cull, if they want to, clank down on the population, then they just have everyone signed up and send them at each other until there hardly anyone else left, right? This is how these people operate. So there are no winners and losers in the Civil War because both sides plundered and stole artworks and, money from both sides. I don't dispute that there were disagreements, but I'm starting to think now that the whole thing is one orchestrated plot, really. Particularly when they wanted to demolish a lot of buildings, it was convenient. Putin's definitely playing this game at the moment, and the whole issue with Ukraine. But one thing, when we get onto this corporate matter, their business affairs, because businesses are almost like overriding objectives in law. Like in the procedure rules, you've got like the overriding objectives, rights always apply. It's almost like no matter what countries are at war with each other, they can always, get on a plane and go do a business deal or, business as usual. It's almost like, the trade, can continue while there's a war going on at the site. In fact, they supply the war. You know, the industry and trade are supplying the war. They're supplying the tanks and bombs and the ammunition, you know, and so forth while there's a war going on. You know, they've probably got a burger stand there. This is the immunity of David Cameron. This is the immunity of Boris Johnson. They can quite happily, you know, be delivering Twinkies or McDonald's or you know, while there's a war going on. You know, you just all just go to town and have a McDonald's at the break time. You know, the shipping company is still, you know, dropping pallets of still managing, you know, supplying, you know, medical equipment, you know, into the war. You know, this is the thing. Now, I know that one of the, according to Peter Ackroyd, the historian, one of the major factors leading into the Civil War in England was the shipping tax, because the shipping tax was something that all of the public disagreed with and they didn't want to pay it. And the king was trying to extort this money out of them to pay this fleet, right? This is when you get into the early part of the Civil War and into John Pym in Parliament, because he was actually from a trading family, you know, that was involved in you know, shipping goods and so forth, a trading company. So now he actually ended up actually inventing the modern taxing system, or setting it out in its earlier form, than what we've got now, John Pym. But the king wanted to implement this shipping tax. Now, when all of the Extinction Rebellion stuff kicked off and opposing the government in more recent times, you know, Extinction Rebellion insulate Britain. I mean, in America, we've got the Stop Cop City campaign. We had all the lockdown and the pandemic and so forth. And then we've got, you know, the campaign that I'm doing against all the illegal road signage. We've got serious accusations and serious matters to raise against the government. In fact, on the basis of the illegal road signage, which would prove that the entire police force was corrupt and would prove that the councils and contractors care and so forth were involved in it, that's so serious that the entire government will lose the legitimacy. Well, they're losing the legitimacy now, whether they like it or not, because they're getting called out on absolutely everything now. And what the royalists usually do is they strike back at the public and strike out at the public whenever there is an uprising. They try and, you know, quell them, give them some, you know, retaliation. And one thing I realised when Donald Trump came into power as president after Obama, they really punished us and put this. Well, what the Trump government actually did is as significant. Now I've come to realise, as in the English Civil War with the shipping tax, what they've did is they really viciously hit us with shipping charges, and it wasn't a. It's effectively a tax on all trade between England and America. When they've left China, you know, you can buy anything you want from, you know, China in the post, from Switzerland, Denmark, France. I got some things that I ordered on eBay. I didn't even know they were from Spain. And it was so cheap that I didn't even know it had come from another country, you know. I don't know why, but the royalists and Trump and the American government really don't like England and America having a nice, friendly relationship. At least not the working class people. If it's Nancy Pelosi and Trump and, you know, people who have got money, to playing golf courses and going on holidays and gambling in the stock market, then they're the ones who are making the money out of us. They're the ones who are actually making the profits. But they don't like the working class English and the working class Americans to become friends, let alone even, to be, doing favours for each other. Oh, I'm selling a jacket for £8. It's second hand. I won't need to go to Jeff Bezos and buy a brand new one. And I won't need to go to eBay. Well, I could buy it on Facebook Marketplace. That's a good deal, a good bargain for the working class. So what they've done is, not only have they cheated us on the tax and claimed that, the packaging in the box and so forth comes under it, and then even though you've already bought those things, and also £15. If it was under £15 value, you didn't have to pay tax if it was a gift or a sample and so forth. And now you can't send it for under £15 because they've put they're claiming that the shipping costs have to be included in it, and then they've put the shipping minimum to $30 or $40. So you can't get it for cheap anymore. You can't get it here. You can't actually get anything for £5 or £8 in the post from America. So, but worse than that, United States Parcel Service, they put like this minimum box charge, and it's like $35 or something ridiculous, $35 or even $45, and there's no cheaper budget version than that. That is like flat-lined. You just can't do it. But, they're even charging people within America these prices in some cases, unless you send a normal letter. But I realised that the cost of it, it cannot be possible to buy, how can they work this out that you buy a old, pullover, sweater or a jacket for £8, but yet they're charging you £35 to send it in the post when it rolls up or folds up and fits in, a bum bag or something, not even bigger than a bum bag size, you know what I mean? That sort of size, and weighs nothing, has no weight to it. At least the post was meant to be charged on weight, if you're sending like a kilogram of, but who sends a kilogram worth of stuff unless you're a business? But we're talking like, less than, not even as much as, when you come back from a Chinese takeaway, not even that weight. Not even as much weight in a chicken fried rice. $35, $45. The proportionate cost to the actual item is insane, and it's the viciousness of it. It's the Nancy Pelosi's and the Donald Trumps of the world and Jeff Bezos's who somehow believe that working class people who have, things that have already had tax paid on them, they've already paid the government tax on it, that they can't, pass on, charitable exchanges or goodwill or, working class people use things, find a good bargain for cheap. No. If you and me find a good bargain for cheap, then that's got to, you finding an £8 bargain with a friend in America, a working class friend in America, that goodwill, that used item that's already been taxed to the government and the government's already taken tax on it, right? That's not good enough. You can't do a friend a favour in England. If you are an American, you can't have a friend in England and do friendly favours for them. If it's a favour to a friend in America, it's now a favour to Nancy Pelosi. Because if you want to do a favour to a friend in America and buy something for £8 second hand and send it to a friend in England, then Nancy Pelosi, with her United States Parcel Force service, believes that not only should the post office also get, make £8 out of, sending it over here, along with the rest of the, millions of parcels they deliver in a big boat when they're all together. But not only £8, but Nancy deserves, out of your friendship with a poor person in America, Nancy demands $30. Not a few dollars more. Nancy wants $30. Donald wants, every time you have a friend, if you're doing a favour for a friend, unless he's a Chinaman, or unless he's, Swedish or Spanish, which this is racist, by the way, if he's English, if you have an English friend, then Donald wants $35 for your kindness. He'll chuck you a baseball hat, and that baseball hat's worth £8, but to catch it, he wants $30, even though it's only worth $8. So, I don't know who the fuck Nancy Pelosi, Donald Trump, and Jeff Bezos think they are. And we all know that the reason for this extortionate royalist shipping tax to the already exceedingly rich, ridiculously rich, they're so stinking filthy rich that it makes you sick. It actually makes you physically sick. That these people want to extort money out of people where they're doing favours, and then because it's so expensive that you don't even end up doing it. You don't even end up buying things from kind people in America. You end up having to go to, Jeff Bezos instead, and you buy it on Amazon because Jeff's not making not taking tax anyway for books or whatever. So it's all to funnel traffic to Amazon and put you off making friends in America. And I actually believe that it is the royal. I think that Charles and the Queen were behind it. I think that it's a punishment on the people. It's a vicious strike at the public out of pure spite. Like it's effectively, this is the modern civil war. This is the modern shipping tax. And we're actually going into it now. We've got all the riots in France with the farmers. We've got, Stop VILLIERS cutting cameras down in London. And then there's Stop Cop City in America, And this is actually how it started, with the shipping tax in the Civil War. And this is what happened here. We found out the government were doing something wrong. Something very, very wrong with all those fines. A couple of courts shut down over it. And then there's a vicious, because we found something they've been doing wrong, they've been criminal, they didn't admit it. And then they struck out the vicious clawing back with the, and then David Cameron also did the speed limit on the national speed limit with the vans as well. Let's not forget that. And then suddenly, magically, Vanguard appears when no one had even fucking heard of it before. They conjured that up from nowhere, just as they conjured up the 60 mile an hour on the motorway when it's 70, for vans, even though it's written on the driving license in crystal clear English. It was a it is Cameron. It's David Cameron, and it's, his circle of, Nick Clegg, Tony Blair, the ex-presidents, the ex-prime ministers, and they're royalists. And they're using the exact same model as the Civil War with the shipping tax. And that's what happened. We called them out on the illegal road signage with the police all around the nation. And they struck back with this illegal shipping tax, just like in the Civil War. And now this is what's happening. Just as the Civil War happened, now it's happening. People are actually all over England, Wales. People are objecting to the installation of these security state cameras, actually doing it. And this is exactly how it played out. So I now recognise that this USPS con, this scam, this illegal shipping tax, because they're lying about the criteria for it as well. Let's not forget that David Cameron is lying about the national speed limit completely and totally, absolutely fraudulently when it's written on the driving licence. He just made it up. He just went... just switched it. And this is exactly what they're doing in the council with the voting, what they're doing with the public consultations, when it's the written statements and objections of the public. It's people opposing things in writing on record, and they're diffusing it and pretending that it's got no value to it. It's like £50 note, no one accepts it anymore. It's defrauding the public, and this is what they pretty much do the whole time. But every time we win something, we don't actually win. No one won in the Civil War because everyone got stripped of their possessions. The soldiers raided everywhere and stole everything. The same with World War II. Everyone, they just sent us at each other and we died, and then they bombed everything and rebuilt it and made a lot of money out of it. So the wars are actually a con. And what they do is they go and meet in secret and have a wink and a nod and a couple of, coded messages backwards and forwards. And then they just send us at each other. And then afterwards they make a shitload of money rebuilding it, and they demolish half of our history. They do it every time. So I'm well aware of this now. And, we've got Slippery Cameron, who's slipped himself into the House of Lords now. These people are... Their heroes are like Buckingham, the Duke of Buckingham, Villiers. It's where the word vile comes from, Villiers. The way how I started off this talk was, we see, these Robin Hood and certain heroes. These people have very, very, very different heroes to us. They have very, very, very different way of looking at history. Wherever we're shouting, like Braveheart and all these champions and so forth, it's a con, because we never won. I don't think we've ever won at all. And it's a miracle that they even pretend that we've got any rights still. It's amazing that they even let us pretend, that we're actually having a say in the vote, It's all a front. So, the shipping tax is important because they've just done it now. They've done it. They did it when Obama, and then, Trump took down the We the People site, the petition site as well. So, Pelosi, the American government, they're so, I don't know why they would want you to be able. Why does it matter whether you buy, a pack of widgets from China or whether you buy a pack of widgets from America? It's got to be discrimination. It has to be racial discrimination. There's got to be racial discrimination where if you buy, a pack of widgets online from China, why should you be deprived of your possessions just because you bought it from an American man? The distance is, it's further to China. There's no reason behind it. All the economy and exchange is all bollocks. It's just absolute complete tosh. There's absolutely no reason at all whatsoever financially why a plane, from China should cost more or less than one from America, seeing though that the one from China's, flown over about 8 different countries anyway. It don't make any sense. And then, it might even fly around the world the opposite way. The people who bought us out, this is to do with Cameron selling off Royal Mail as well. And there's certain